What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Good day or evening to everyone out there in the decoding world. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today I'm going to be breaking down and decoding the architect of the universe and what created this world that we live in and how it works. And what I'm going to be introducing to all of you are things that you've probably never seen before. You know, we're in the age now where there are no more secrets, and secret societies and all those things that used to exist will be a thing of the past, because these things that I'm about to show you, this is what should have been taught in school, of how things really work, versus kind of dumbing us down through a bunch of propaganda and non-truths. So, folks, you know, really it started for me with decoding video games and realizing that we live in a simulation. Now, it's a real simulation, but it's a simulation, and how far-fetched is it to believe that this photograph right here, it's somebody staring into a computer screen, they got the mouse in their hand, and they're creating something using a computer. Right now, you're watching this presentation on your phone or a computer. Why is it so far-fetched to believe that something outside of our physical reality has controlled us and is controlling us and has created us using the same kind of circumstances that all of us are creating through computers, quantum computers, video games, simulations, virtual reality? Why is it so far-fetched to believe? How far down can we really go to understand this information? That's what we're going to get into, folks. I'm about to show you some groundbreaking material. So as I always say, get comfortable, throw some headphones on, and get yourself immersed in this presentation. Take some notes. This one's going to be over an hour long. I can guarantee you that. But I promise you, as I always say, this will be well worth the time you spend on watching this presentation. So here we go, folks. Here are the topics in no particular order. These are just some of the things I'll be talking about during this presentation. In the zero position, the intro, how I got started, what this is going to lead to, and the starting of the great architect of the universe. In the first position, of course, Sony PlayStation, the video game that I believe we're all playing. Just it's not called the PlayStation, but Sony PlayStation is going to be one of the topics. Number 2, Photon's light. This is going to be a big deal. Number 3, the biggest topic of them all out of this presentation, sacred geometry. Because when you scrape away all the bullshit and propaganda, folks, on what you think you know, what the church told you, what your mom and dad told you, your neighbor, your friend, your cousin, what the sermon told you, what the pastor told you during the sermon, scrape all that away, folks, and really open your mind. You get into sacred geometry. Number 4, the rosy rose. What does that mean? The rose. So you're going to find out on that. That's a big deal as well. Number 5, the eye of Providence. Number 6, the bullseye. And of course, number 7, what did you see? I always love to hear what your observational points are, folks, because I miss things, and a lot of great decoders out there, so I'd love to hear what you see at the end of this presentation. Leave your comments and tell me what you saw. So this is really where the starting point of this presentation is, and that is using the Masons as an example. And, again, if you have gotten past the point of blaming the Masons for all the bad things that happen in this world, congratulations. Obviously, there's good and bad in everything. But these secret societies, the Masons, we're going to get into Rosicrucians, I can guarantee you that. Folks, there's no more secrets anymore. You don't need to go join a lodge. You don't need to go join a secret society. You don't need to do a bunch of rituals and magic to discover the truth. I'm about to show you some truths during this presentation. It's going to pop some navels, going to put some people's jaws on the floor, and it's going to open up a new world for a lot of people, and people are going to be able to expand on this knowledge. I can guarantee you that, because I've scoured the internet. Things I'm about to show you, I haven't found anywhere. And that's not to brag or say I'm better. I'm just saying is that these are discoveries that I've found, that I've downloaded, and I'm excited to share them with all of you folks. So clearly, someone had asked me about, hey, what about the most important elements? I was on Facebook. I don't remember who you were, but thank you very much. You ignited the spark. I was doing a decode on the 6 most important elements, and I had tucked it away, and you reminded me of that. So thank you very much, whoever you were. But notice the 6 most important elements that make up the most biological molecules on Earth. It's carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. These 6 are huge in the world of alchemy. And we get into real science, because again, we're stripping away what the church and all the propaganda, all the crap kind of has filled people's minds with. And now we get into real things that we can actually measure. 1 + 1 really does equal 2. Those kinds of things. That's what I'm interested in. I don't know about you. But the 6 elements, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, when we do the alchemy, which is just adding up these atomic weights that they have, and going to the trusty calculator to do that, you get the number 105.952. And that 105 is a direct match to the words great architect of the universe, which is what the Masons call God. I mean, they use the Bible, folks, and that Bible, it may have some words changed, but it's the same Bible that if you go into a Protestant church, if you go into a Baptist church, it's all the same, folks. So you scrape away the dogma and the propaganda, and you get into actual numbers. And we're going to get into sacred geometry, which tells the truth on how this world works. So that 105 is a direct match of what the Masons call the great architect of the universe. And that's why I have, the 47, because they use, obviously, the square and compass is the 2 tools that they have for their logo. And that's the number 47. And that's a direct match of the word tetragrammaton, which is the basic word for the ancient Israelite God of the Old Testament. Tetra meaning 4. The box, the cube, and the cube, the sphere, the box, the cube is one of the geometrical shapes we're going to be talking about. We live in the box, folks. We live in the box. And these are big deal expressions right here, and it's tied to that 105. And, I have the 53 here because when you do the addition of the protons of these 6 elements, 6 + 1 + 7 + 8 + 15 + 16, you're going to come to the number 53. And that's the element iodine, as in I am that I am. So now you get into theology, and again, you scrape away the dogma and propaganda. It's there. It's completely staring you in the face. It's completely staring you in the face. And we're going to get into that number 126 as well. So that's kind of the starting point of it all, folks. And it leads me to these expressions right here, because you see, I love prime numbers. If you don't know what a prime number is, I'm going to suggest that you pause this video and go read on what a prime number is, because they're a big freaking deal and you should know. Prime numbers are standalone numbers. They're a big deal. But notice the number 571. I'm using numberempire.com. The number 571 is the 105th prime number, which is tied to that great architect of the universe, tied to the 6 most important molecules on Earth. And that 571 is a numerical enneagram of the 157. It's right there. 571157 doesn't matter. It's just still expressing itself as numbers. And that's tied to this element right here called gadolinium. And this is the GD element. If you just slip an O in there, it would spell out the word God. So clearly, the 571 being the 105th prime number, and then the great architect of the universe being the 105, and then those 6 important elements being the 105, you can see how important and the tie-ins to this GD element right here. And we know that there are 64 possible codons in our DNA, which is why in the background I have the double helix. We know that the Masons love to use their checkerboard square floor. It doesn't mean it's demonic or satanic, folks. So scrap that idea. How many squares on a chessboard? 64. How many possible codons in our DNA? Your DNA, how many possible? 64. Does that make you demonic? I'll leave you to answer that question. But there's the tie-ins to the great architect of the universe. And the 571 is found from adding these 2 numbers up right here, 285 and 286. And then we bring in the string of pi, the measurement of a circle. We live on Earth, which is the perfect circle. We live inside pi, infinite potential. I've been showing this over and over and over. But the number 36 occupies both the 285 and 286 decimal digits of pi. It's found right at this website right here, Sabidium.com. I'll leave this in the description so you can just click the link and start doing your decoding using this website. But the 36, clearly it's right there. It occupies both the 285 and 286. And when you add those 2 numbers up, you're going to get that 571, which is the 105th prime number, which is tied to the GD element. Now, why did I start with the 36? I kind of reverse engineered it because, see, folks, it starts with this right here, the 8th triangular number. And now we get into really the bulk of this presentation. I had done a decode on the flower of life in Taurus fields. You should check that one out if you haven't watched it. I used the same beautiful graphic in the background, this aquamarine and kind of violet color. This is the representation of a Taurus field or Taurus fields. It's dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. I mean, you should be studying, my great friend Santos Bonacci. You should be studying all of his videos. You should be studying Ken Wheeler and the things that he's been presenting to the world. But nonetheless, the 8th triangular number is the number 36, which, again, we got that off of right here, which is tied to that 105 in the great architect of the universe. But here is the number 8 right there. You see that? These 2 tetrahedrons, that's the shape right here, otherwise known as a triangle. It makes up that number 8 right there. And the 8th triangular number is 36. And when you add up 3 plus 6 plus 9 plus 3 plus 6 plus 9, you get the number 36. Using real math, folks. This is not my opinion. This is not something I read in a book and I'm regurgitating. These are real numbers. And of course, we're talking about, this is a triangle. Triangular. Triangle. 8th triangular is the number 36. 36 is found by adding up all these digits that make up this hourglass shape right here, which is tied to Tesla's 3, 6, and 9, the key to the universe. And we're going to be talking about this vortex-based mathematics and Rodin circle and all that stuff. So, folks, I hope you're ready because I'm going to absolutely blow your freaking doors off. I guarantee you will absolutely be floored when I show you, because this is the model of how this universe works. And I'm going to support it with math. So it's not my opinion. We get into sacred geometry. Not something that somebody preached during a sermon on Sunday school or during the Sunday or church. This is real stuff, folks. And the sacred geometry kind of is cemented by video games. I said, I believe we're living in a video game, a simulation. Yeah, it's real, but it's a simulation. And this little picture right here is somebody holding a remote control of a Sony PlayStation, and maybe you've been one of these people sitting down, looking at a screen and controlling a character. Why is it so far-fetched to think that something's not controlling us outside of our physical reality that's sitting down with a remote control and doing the same thing that we do, staring at a TV screen? I mean, what's absolutely fascinating about this number 64, here it is again, the GD element. Because see, all 4 of these buttons on this remote control, the triangle, the circle, the square, and then the X, because they're all embedded into this presentation, they equal the number 64. And if you know your theology, Jesus was a fisher of men, right here to the left of your screen. And if you remember the scripture that talks about the apostles and their fishing, and they weren't catching anything, and Jesus says, no, cast your nets over the right side of the boat. So they did, and they caught how many fish? 153. It's right there. It's right there. So theology's tied into video games. How about that? It's tied into Tesla and the key to the universe and the architect of the universe. And, if you want to go a step further, when you look at that number 64, and that element, this is the picture that the Royal Society of Chemistry decided to use, is a television. That's because when you go to the uses and properties, you'll see that it's because it's used in television screens. Television. Virtual reality. Sacred geometry. The game of life. And so, going back to this right here, this 8th triangular number 36, which I found from the 571 and the 105th, tied to the architect of the universe and the 6 most important molecules on Earth. That shape right there, it's right here, folks. It's the hourglass. I showed this during my presentation of the torus fields and the flower of life. Notice hourglass is a 33, master number 33, and universe equals 33. So it's not about just, it's Masonic and it's Jesuit and they're doing rituals. Folks, get past that. I'm not belittling what people do in the world, but man's being used, folks. Man's not doing anything. They're playing out their script and they're being controlled remotely, just like this. That's the way our world works. Welcome to the game of life. So there's that hourglass shape. And this is what it looks like when you have 4 of them, because this is the key to the universe right here. Tesla said the key to the universe is the 3, 6, 9. It's right there. It's the 3, 6, and 9, except you have 4 of them. And this shape right here, folks, is tied to the Iron Cross, which of course has a lot of bad energy to it because the Nazis used it. It's tied to the Celtic cross. It's also tied to the supposed history of finding America and Christopher Columbus. It was on their sails, according to the history. It's right there. It's right there, folks. That shape is right there, and I'm going to show you how this all syncs up, because I know it may be a little bit abstract right now. But this is the model of the universe, folks. And it gets into this shape right here, the shape of a photon. I'm going to leave the link of this right here in the description of this video. But here is the actual rendition of that. You can read on in your own time, but there it is. Do you see the shape resemble that shape? I mean, it's clearly right there. Which is, you go back to the sails that history says. It's right there. Look at it, folks. You see it? It's right there. Right there. And the X is right there. The X is what kind of, brings it all together. And then, if you go and look, I was watching this video of Tony Robbins, the great Tony Robbins, last year, and he's wearing a hat that had a 4-leaf clover on it. I'm like, why is he wearing that? Because I'm always looking at symbols. Well, now I know why. He may have not known why he was wearing it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But clearly, this shape right here is that shape right there, which is why 4-leaf clovers are considered lucky. They're rare. And notice in numerology, it's a master number 66. The word clover is 26, which is tied to the element iron right here. And iron is tied to the iron cross. You see how all this syncretizes? As my great friend Santos, he calls it syncretism. It's the blending of all these energies together, which is, I call it decoding reality, but it's really syncretizing things. So it's right there, folks. 4-leaf iron is what it should have said, but it's called clover. And this is what it would look like when you embed the infinity symbol, 2 of them, in neon fashion to highlight how important these shapes are, creating these torus fields, the as above, so below. And clearly you can see the figure 8s, one going vertically, one going horizontally. And of course that gives you the number 88, because here's one 8, and then here's the other 8, 88. So you can clearly see the origins of that 88 and, time travel. And obviously, if you use your imagination, you can see how time travel would fit into this equation. And why this triangle is so big on the world stage. It's on the back of a dollar bill. You see all these celebrities that sold their souls to create the all-seeing eye. And I'm going to be showing that to you as well, folks. And again, I'm not taking anything away from what you want to believe, but I'm scraping away all the dogma and propaganda to show you the origins of all these things. So again, this is what it looks like without the infinities, and there it is with the infinities. The 4-leaf clovers are right there, obviously. And the center point is that cube. Because in the dead center, even behind these tetrahedrons, triangles, in the cube, you have this beautiful rendition of the torus fields and the magnetic and the dielectricity and electricity. And you have this center point, which is, the apple, the heart, the anahata chakra. If you laid the chakras here, the anahata would be here. And you have this cube, which is where we all live inside, by the way. That's why the nation of, the Saudi Arabians have the big black cube at Mecca. That's why some of the Jews have the cubes on their heads. That's why Saturn in the cube, the hexagon, someone put a hex on you, the Star of David, all of them fit inside this model. All of them. And it's that center point, and we live inside that cube. That's why you have spring, summer, fall, and winter. It's the cube. North, south, east, and west. It's the cube. It's the cube, folks. And we're going to get into that during this presentation even more. And then you bring in the other layer, which is the circle, pi. It's a little superimposed, but this circle fits right inside that box, and it creates our duality, and it's forever spinning. All the seasons and infinite potential of pi fit inside that cube. And we're all stuck inside that cube, folks. It's called playing the game of life. And this little circle makes up a keyhole, which looks like this. You see the keyhole right here, folks, with this circle and tied to this triangle. And of course, there are 4 keyholes because you'd have the 3 other triangles or tetrahedrons tied together with that circle and the cube. And the key, of course, is the number 8, tied to that 36, tied to the hourglass, and key through alchemology, which is the blending of numerology and alchemy. Key is a 251, helium, boron, and hydrogen. Using the trusty calculator here to the right, you get the number 16.02. That's tied once again to that 53rd element, 1602, 162, 126, 160. It's right in there. It's an anagram of that. Same thing, same expression. There it is, and that's the I am that I am. And that's tied to the 6 most important elements on Earth, the 53. Tied to the keyhole. The key to the universe. I am that I am. And it brings us to the bullseye, folks. And I want you to keep your eyes, no pun intended, on this number 28, because at the very end of this presentation, this one's going to slam you in the face, because this is what it's all about. I played darts. I was in the military. I played darts. I was in a league. Loved darts, but it was always shooting for that bullseye. The center of the board, and that's right there, the centerpiece, the bullseye. Not missing the mark. It's hitting the mark right there, the bullseye. And remember, the eye, the all-seeing eye, and the bull, the Taurian bull. That's why the Bible, because it means 2 bulls. The bull is Taurus. Taurus is Venus. Venus is runs the second chakra, the sacral, which runs our procreation. Women have 2 ovaries, men have 2 testes. We procreate using that. The bull has 2 horns. It's the bull. The Bible, that's why the Bible has the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's all tied up into this center point. It's all inside that cube, inside the circle, which is controlled by this iron cross and the torus fields. If we expand on that, we place another tetrahedron or triangle, and now we form a diamond shape. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. And this fits right inside of our DNA, our double helix, our Jesus, tree of life, and knowledge, tree of knowledge, Lucifer, Jesus, Lucifer, or vice versa. And when you look at this shape right here, folks, this actually starts to look like the element 115, which is called Moscovium, which is right here, folks. And if you know your periodic table and you've been following along, it's really, really important. There is that shape right there, which starts to make this shape right here. If you add on another one here, it starts to look, and folks, trust me, it's linked to this, which is linked to UFOs. And it expands out on that a lot. So let's start breaking down the sacred geometry, shall we? Of this model of the universe and the great architect of the universe. And it starts in no particular order. I'm just starting with the circle, which is pi, the measurement of a circle, and Rodin's circle, which is right here. Which, if you haven't seen this, I would suggest checking out Rodin's circle 369. Here's a rendition of it right here. See, it's encompassing all the numbers all the way around the circle. And, there's some great books on it. It's tied to Tesla and torus fields and vortex math and all that stuff. But here it is. My numbers are not accurate. The 3 should be over here and the 6 should be over here. But nonetheless, there's the key to the universe. The triangles outlined in blue, and then the other numbers, which make up our DNA, are outlined in orange. But there's the complete circle. And we want to add that up. So we want to add up the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, because that is the duplicating aspects of nature. 1 plus 1 becomes 2. 2 plus 2 becomes 4. 4 plus 4 becomes 8. 8 plus 8 becomes 16. 1 plus 6 becomes 7. 16 plus 16 becomes 32. 3 plus 2 is 5. And then it just goes right back to the 1. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1. This just keeps moving. This just keeps moving. And then you have the 369 key that is separate that moves as well. But clearly when you add up the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, you get the number 64, which is once again tied to the GD element, gadolinium, and that fish number, the 153 fish. It's also 157, tied to the great architect of the universe, tied to the possible codons in our DNA. These numbers, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, DNA, folks. And, then we get into expanding on that because now we need another rodent circle. You see, that's where I feel that those that have expanded on this may have fallen short. You can't just stop at 1. Because you need to create the expansiveness of this iron cross, this photon, this light, the photon light, this model of the great architect of the universe. And when you bring them into the center point, the number 9, let me go back, because the number 9s are right here. The number 9s are right there. And when you bring it into the center, both 9s end up going inside that box. And then when we expand on it even further, because now we need to get these side layers filled in, and we bring in another set on the left and right, and then those come in and they form that quatra, that tetra of the 4 rodent circles. And of course, I've added the layer of the 2 infinity symbols. And I'm sure that if someone were to create something based upon this model, it would probably be linked to free energy. I don't know. I'm just speculating, just saying it's possible. But this is pure math right here, folks. And I'm just getting started. But clearly you can see that these all go together when you break them apart into that model of the torus fields and dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity, and numbers, and sacred geometry with the triangle and the circle and the square in the center point. So there's that, combining all 4 of the rodent circles, the vortex math coming together. So there is the measurement of the circles. Now we want to get into the measurement of the square/cube. And this is the fun part of this, because this is where I was absolutely, completely blown freaking away when I studied this and found it. And I knew this was the truth. I knew this was the truth because numbers don't lie when you can find the connections, obviously. But here's where the cube comes in, because again, we live inside this cube, folks. Make no mistake about it. This is Saturn's magic square, by the way. And this is the box, and I'm going to be coming out with my Decode on Prison Planet, and it involves this. And that's why the Tetragrammaton uses the box. The temples, all that, they're all squares. A court of law is a square. Computers are square. Cell phones are square. The Bible is a square book. All books are square. And the 3-dimensional shape is the 4 corners of the earth, and the circle of pi goes right inside there. And when you add up these numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9, going over to that trusty calculator, you're going to get the number 45. And the number 45 is tied to this element right here, rhodium. Those of you that have the RH factor in your blood, there you go. And rhodium has an atomic mass or weight of 102.906. In the mirror of that, you're going to get 201. Event 201. You know that one, right? 906 is yin yang, 96. And rhodium's isotope in science is the number 103. They're going to round this up, 102.906, and they call it in science rhodium isotope 103. Which, when you go to numerology and you look at just this right here, let me get rid of these. When you look at the Chaldean and you start to type in all the letters of the alphabet, see if I can do this talking to you at the same time. Here are the 26 letters of the alphabet. You get the number 103. All 26, tied to that iron cross. Remember the 4-leaf clover, 26? But it's tied to this isotope 103, which is the center point of this presentation. It's the box that we live in, the square, the cube. Saturn's magic square, and it's the 45, adding these numbers up. So rhodium sits right in the middle of all of these Rodin circles, all 4 of them. And, you know, it's tied to the ancient Rosicrucian system, the secret society, 17th century. This is their motto. Dat Rosa Nil Epipus, something like that. I probably didn't even pronounce it right, but when you look that up, actually, when you go, and I found it right here, folks, just so you know, you go to rhodium right here, and there's the rose that the Royal Society of Chemistry, it's derived from the Greek word rhodin, and when you look at the uses and properties, here is the motto right here. And it means the rose gives the bees honey. The rose gives the bees honey. The rose gives the bees honey. The honeycomb. See the honeycomb? The honeycomb. You see it. And then the rose, rhodium in the very middle, the box, because it's the representation of the tetragrammaton, the box we live in. The rose. Right there. And then you take the actual Rosicrucian cross and you place it on top of this model, and it clearly fits. There's the cross. And this is what it looks like without the Rodin circles there. Without that vortex math in the background. But there it is, folks. You see that? Look at how perfect this fits inside this model of torus fields and real physics. I mean, you scrape away all these symbols. This is something I found, but clearly this fits perfectly over this model. And in the very dead center is that cube, which is right here. These are the honeycombs. You can clearly see that right there. And then when you break down the box, you know, I mean, this is what a box looks like if you kind of, you know, break it all down and unfold it, which is your cross, which is right there. I mean, it's undeniable, folks. And then that box fits right in that center point. And you'll notice, these keys to the universe, these tetrahedrons, they're all giving their energy. They're all pointing to this center point. You see the outline of all these triangles, and they're all pointing to the center point. All of them, which is the box that we live in. And when you break down the box and you start to bring theology into this, clearly you can see where that Christ figure fits into all of it. And, the cube is also known as a hexahedron. And in that three-dimensional space of the hexahedron fits that cross. That cross folded up is the cube, and that's the hexahedron, which is the 44, which is gold current. It's a direct match of the two in numerology. And I've shown this so many times now that we're all being mined for our gold. And I had a video that came out called The Christ Battery, and I would highly suggest that you go watch that. Because I feel that energy is mining your gold. We're all just being mined for our gold. And this is a really important piece of all that. It's tied to pi. The letters PI is the 196. It's right there with the gold. If you really want to seek out the knowledge, you go look at pi. P and I is 196 in the English. It's inside this box. Pi, the circle, is inside this box, and it's forever spinning, creating our duality. We're being mined for our gold. And, when you look at the box, clearly we have the four corners of the earth, which is the compass. North, south, east, and west, that's gold. And then you have the four seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And this compass, which I've overlaid the yin yang, it spins through the seasons. It spins, and it creates our duality. And, we're just fish being mined for our gold. Notice fish and gold are 17. And we're being mined for our gold inside the box that's represented by north, south, east, and west. And it's tied to the crucifixion and the cross and the Christ figure. Tied to that element of rhodium and the Rosicrucians. It's clear right there, and tied to the alphabet all inside the box because of the 103, and our 1 through A through Z is 103, all of it. So now we get into the triangle. The measurement of the triangle, the key to the universe, as Tesla said, and it's pretty simple. You have the 3, 6, and 9, and there are 4 of them because they fit right over those rodent vortex mathematic circles. They're right inside there. And when you do the 4, 3, 6, 9s, there are 4 of these triangles. So here is the breakdown using the trusty calculator. 3 plus 6 plus 9, 4 times. You're going to get the number 72. So real math, folks. 72. So then we want to bring in the eye of Providence. Remember, folks, on the back of the dollar bill is the all-seeing eye, and of course people are always saying how satanic and Luciferian it is and demonic, and then people are making the pyramids with their eyes and their fingers and their hands and all this stuff. And I'm not debating whether or not someone's doing destructive things to the world, but let's cut out all that propaganda and really start to see how this world works. And the eye of Providence is that all-seeing eye, and you'll notice that in numerology it equals the number 72. It's in the shape of a triangle, and these 4 triangles, which are the 4 keys to this whole entire model of the universe shares that number 72. All four of those triangles inside those circles that make up the torus fields that are part of physics, that are part of dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity equal the number 72. And that's tied to the eye of Providence, which equals the number 72. Now, it's the eye of what? The eye of Providence. Providence is the number 46 in numerology, which is tied to this element right here called palladium. Now, palladium, when you look at it and start to research it a little bit, you get the clues, you see, because it's tied to this asteroid named Pallas, which is named after the Greek goddess of wisdom. How about that? From the Greek goddess of wisdom. And we're talking about the eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye, meaning wisdom. And when we bring in the other layer, because palladium has several atomic weights, one of them is 105, which leads us right back to what the Masons call the great architect of the universe, which is the 105, which is tied to this 46th element, which is tied to Providence, which is tied to 72, which is tied to the key to the universe. So as you can see, folks, when you scrape away the propaganda and dogma, what you're left with are real truths, geometry, and the models of the universe, not what somebody told you, somebody preached to you, or someone showed you in a book. Let's keep going. Let's marry these two now, because you see, obviously the triangles they give all this energy, all this focus. See, all these triangles in magic, if you know anything about magic, when you do the triangle of art, you want the triangle to be pointing down. This is the center. This is where the energy's going right here. The energy's all these triangles or pyramids or tetrahedrons, they're all focusing their energy on the center, which is where this cube lies, the square, which is where we all live. We live inside the cube, the tetragrammaton. We all live inside of it. So we want to marry the two with the numbers to give us a more accurate rendition of how this world works. So naturally, here's the triangles added up, the 72, which I just showed you. And then the cube before that was the 45. Cube's 45, triangles are 72. So when we bring them together, we get the number 117, which some of you automatically should have bells going off, because this is the actual number tied to the height to base ratio of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And if you know what the 11 and the 7 means, then you have even more in-depth knowledge. But I'm not going to go break that down today. So now what we want to do is we want to add up and marry all three of these geometrical shapes and expressions. The square, the cube, which is what we all live in, the rhodium cube, the rose. We want to add up the circles, the four of them, because there are four that make up the torus fields. And we also want to add up the triangles, the tetrahedrons. So here's what it would look like. The triangles in the cube, which I showed you together, 72 and 45, they equal the number 117. And now we want to bring in the rodent circles, the vortex of mathematics. These four circles that make up the honeycomb, these equal 256. Remember, it was 64 that they added up to. So there's four of those. So 64 times 4 is 256. So 256 and then 117 for this entire piece from the great architect of the universe. And when you add them all up, you get the number 373. I mean, just the funny things, the timestamp of when I see how late I was working, 4:44 a.m., and my battery was at 11%. Look at the master numbers there. See, this is why I know I'm in tune with this. Because you can't leave out the subtleties, folks. But 373 is what we get from doing the alchemy or blending of this entire model right here of how our universe works. And this kind of says it all. The number 373 through numberempire.com is the 74th prime number. It's the 74th prime number. Remember, tetragrammaton equals 47. What's the mirror of the 47? The 74. And when you bring in the element on the periodic table that links up with that 74, it's tungsten. The W means wolfram. That's the abbreviation of tungsten. That's the original name of tungsten. It's called wolfram, the wolf element. The letter W is the 23rd letter in the English alphabet. 23 is linked to the words crown, blood, and history. The letter W is the triple crown letter. That's where triple crown comes from in sports, tied to the crown. The letter W tied to tungsten, tied to illumination. Because you see, folks, they used to make light bulbs with tungsten in it. The filament in light bulbs was made from tungsten. What do light bulbs do? They illuminate. So this 373 is tied to the 74th prime number, tied to the element of illumination, which is tied to this model right there. And I know this to be accurate because we're talking about prime numbers and tungsten and illumination. Let's go a little bit further. Here are the three elements that make up the three geometrical shapes of this presentation, and they're right there. The circle, the square, and the triangle. All three are right here. The triangle, the circle, and the square. So remember, the triangle added up was 72, hafnium. The circle, the Rodin circle, the four circles, those each added up to the number 64, gadolinium. And then the square from the Rosicrucians, the rose in the very middle, the box we live in, rhodium. When you add up 72 plus 64 plus 45 right there, you're going to get the number 181. And 181 is the 42nd prime number. If you've ever seen the video on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and you've watched this, it's a comedy series, but in this video, it has a group of people and they asked this supercomputer what the secret to the universe was. And it said, the computer said, come back in 7.5 million years and I'll tell you. And when they came back, the answer was
deep thought. Do you have
an answer for you? Yes, but you're not going to like it.
It doesn't matter. We must know it.
All right. The answer to the ultimate question of life the universe and everything is 42.
42. 42. So the person that created Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, did they know that the 42 is tied to these three elements and sacred geometry? I don't know. But it doesn't matter because, as I said, man's being used. Man's being used, folks. And, you know, when you go a little bit further, here is the triangle, circle, and square. 59, that's the 17th prime number tied to gold and fish. We're being mined for our gold. Triangle, circle, square, 59, 17th prime number. We're being mined for our gold inside the cube. When you add up and do the alchemy of those three elements that make up the triangle, the circle, and the square, hafnium, gadolinium, and rhodium, here it is using the trusty calculator. Look at the number that you get. Master number 44 with the 0 after that, and then triple master number 777. When you add up 440 plus 777, you're going to get this number right here. And 1217 is the 199th prime number. Bringing that into the string of pi, folks, look at where it's found. Let me zoom in so you can see. The 704. Which once again ties to that 74. And being the complete of this model right here of the universe. And, you know, for good measures, the 1217, when you bring that into the string of pi, folks, look at what it's tied to. Two master numbers again. 11,077th decimal digit of pi. And again, we found that from adding up the alchemy of hafnium, gadolinium, and rhodium, the three geometrical shapes that make up our universe. I mean, you know, 44 is gold current. Gold currency. So make no mistake about it, folks. This is the truth. This is how it works. I mean, going a step further, you know, 72, when you reduce it down, 7 plus 2 is 9, 6 plus 4 is 10. Drop the 0, that's a 1. 4 plus 5 is 9, so it's 919. There it is. 919 is the 157th prime number. And what did we say the great architect of the universe was tied to? It's the 571. It's the 571. It's just another jumbled way of the 157, 571, but it's clear that it's right there. Great architect of the universe. And then, you know, you get into the Wizard of Oz. I mean, if you don't want to reduce this down and you go 9, you know, 7 plus 2 is 9, 6 plus 4 is 10, 4 plus 5 is 9, you'd get the 9109, and that's the 130th prime number. And, you know, notice there is the 919 or 191. That's the Wizard of Oz. I mean, it's right there, folks. 919, 191. Osmium is otherwise known as the Wizard of Oz. And most of you should know what that 1130 is and what it's tied to the rabbit hole, tied to magic, tied to our blood types. Most importantly, tied to our blood types. Nihonium and the 286. Go watch my video on Random Thoughts number 6. It's the 286, which is the 113th element, Nihonium. It's right there. Our blood types are derived from sacred geometry. So I told you we'd be ending this presentation with the remembrance of that bullseye. I said, remember and keep your eye on that 28. No pun intended. But that 28 is tied to these three elements, because you see, when you take the 72 and 64 and 45 and you break it down and you add them up and reduce it down, 7 plus 2 plus 6 plus 4 plus 4 plus 5, look at what number that you get. The number 28, the bullseye. The bullseye. See, because we live inside that bullseye. It's the cube. We live in the cube, the square, four corners of the earth, spring, summer, fall, and winter, but it's inside, pi's inside that square. We live inside pi, which is inside the cube. I mean, our DNA's right here. I mean, the 72 angels and demons, that story is right there. And last but not least, folks, you see the 28 in the string of pi tied to that bullseye. Look at where it appears. It starts at the 33rd decimal digit of pi. And the 33 is, of course, tied to our chromosomes, because the 33 in the string of pi, it appears and occupies the 24th and 25th decimal digits of pi, and we know the letter X and the letter Y, those are the 24th and 25th letters, and that is our X and Y chromosomes. So clearly, folks, you can see that when you strip away all the propaganda and all the dogma that we haven't been taught or we've been told that's not true, you can see for your own eyes what the numbers really mean. Why the 33? Why the 33 is so important? It's tied to the bullseye, which is tied to the box, which is tied to pi. And it's tied to the Wizard of Oz that runs it. And Wizard of Oz is geometry, sacred geometry, which is just living inside the code, folks. Look at all these master numbers. And these may be my opinions and truths, folks, but clearly you can see numbers are throwing up all over us, and they're telling us the truths. Because numbers, to me, those are my boss. They're my boss. And you can clearly see all these prime numbers and what they're leading to. I mean, you know, Jupiter is 42. Jupiter's symbol is 42, and from everything I've been gathering so far, it looks like Jupiter's running the box. And, you know, remember, this box is the heart chakra, and Jupiter's the fourth planet. You know, when you look at the cards, here's Jupiter in the very center. 1, 2, 3, 4. Running the heart chakra. And that's tied to the box. Which I showed, you know, Trump being the 45th president, and the cube being 45, and the cube's owned by Jupiter. Clearly the math is expressing itself, and it's showing all of us that the mathematician of this world is the architect, and you got to strip away the dogma and propaganda and get rid of a lot of the beliefs you think, because this right here is the real truth of how it all works. All of this is really how it all works. And these geometrical shapes, and realizing we live in the box and we're being used for our energetic gold. And for those of you that pledge to that character right there, I mean, remember, Jesus is Jupiter, mining you for your gold. Christianity, Largest religion in the world. That includes a lot of them, over 30%, mining you for your gold. I mean, there's the cross unfolded from the cube, which sits in the very dead center of this model of the universe. That's how it works, folks. It's tied to the Rosicrucians. I mean, they have it right. You know, the rosy cross and the honeycomb that gives the bees its honey. It's inside the box, inside the square, inside the cube. And, you know, here's a beautiful rendition of the infinity symbols overlaid. And, you know, it looks like an energy center is what it is. I mean, I'm sure free energy is somehow tied to this. I just don't know exactly how, but I'm sure it's in here, folks. I'm sure it is. I'm sure of it, that it's inside here. So, well, anyway, that's all I got for today, folks. My name is Logan. This is Decoded Reality, and I thank each and every one of you for watching.